your world. And my name is Winnie Lubem. And of course, today is a pretty much very important day because every 20th of February, the world actually marks World Day of Social Justice. But when you look at social justice, it is all about equality. And fortunately, around the world, this is actually far from truth or from reality. And of course, social injustices can happen, in different scales, either locally or globally as well. And of course, whether it is segregation of an entire cultural group or unequal pay or cases of poverty or lack of access to healthcare, social injustice is actually everywhere. And as the world marks the Day of Social Justice today, what is our individual responsibility and role to ensure everybody everywhere is treated in a just way? Well, that is what we want to focus on today. So you want to stick around until the end of the conversation to really understand, first of all, what is it or what exactly does social justice mean? And again, what can we do to contribute towards a just and a fair world? But then again, so before we get into the conversation, my guests are already here. Perfect people to actually discuss this. Very powerful women who are out here saying, listen, we need a fair and a just world. And of course, they're fighting for justice in different capacities. And of course, before I introduce them very quickly, let's just first of all get to understand when we say social justice, what exactly does that entail? But how about we just start with understanding the word justice, right, in itself. What exactly is it? Well, it is actually a concept of fairness. So that is what justice basically means. It's a concept of fairness. So then when we say social justice, what exactly does that refer to? So when we say social justice, what we mean is it actually refers to a fair and equitable division of resources, opportunities, and privileges in the society, all right? Refers to a fair and equitable division of resources, opportunities, and privileges in the society. And at the same time, it actually emphasizes fairness in how society divides its social resources, all right? So basically, that is the whole concept around social justice. So there are several principles when it comes to social justice. So what exactly are we looking at? Well, there's an aspect of human rights. We have the question of access. We have the question of participation, as well as equity. And of course, these four areas is what we'll be focusing in today's conversation, and that is on human rights, access, participation, and as well as equity. So the question that we're asking you today is, again, what forms of social injustice have you, witnessed around you? What are some of the forms of social injustice that you have seen around you in your neighborhood, in your schools, in your places of work, in your community, the society and country at large, and of course, globally, all right? What are some of the forms of injustices that you have seen around? And what is it that we can do about it, or what are you doing about it? Because like we said, this is our collective responsibility. So at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and Twitter, is how you can reach us, or tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie, so that by the end of the conversation or by the end of the show, we all have an understanding as far as, social justice is concerned. So my guests are already here, beautiful women, beautiful ladies fighting for justice, in different capacities. And of course, we have Njoki Gashanja, who is a political and social justice activist, as well as the founder and coordinator, Githurai Social Justice Center. It's so good to see you this morning. You look lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you really for gracing the morning and to be here today to have this very important conversation. And of course, we also have Zaina Waturi Kombo, who is a campaign manager, Inequalities, and that is from Amnesty International Kenya. It's so good to have you this morning.
Thank you for
Look lovely
me.
as well. How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Karibuni sana to both of you, really, and thank you for doing such a good job in fighting for justice in your own different levels. But I'll start with you, Zaina. Let's just talk about the significance of this day. What does it mean to you?
It means a lot for some of us who are fighting against inequalities.
All right.
It brings attention to the existence, the disparities between the classes that we have. And I don't like it when I speak about class, because every human being deserves dignity and justice. It brings attention to the many challenges that are faced by poor communities, the indigent, who cannot, they don't understand those four principles we're talking about: access, equity. They don't know what you say, what you mean when you say that, because they do not feel it. They do not enjoy it. They feel second-class
like
citizens.
foreign, yeah,
Like their rights have been relegated to the back seat, and they're just existing.
Yeah.
That is what it means.
I see. I see. All right. And for you, what does it mean for you?
This day is very important because it gives us an opportunity to actually reflect on how far we've come as a society, especially in the Kenyan context. It gives us a chance to actually even reflect on the implementation of the Constitution, because it is in the 2010 Constitution that we had the introduction of Article 43, which really speaks about economic and social our rights. So as a country, how are we doing with social justice? I am a community grassroots organizer. So every single time I'm talking about social justice, I'm talking about the dignity of the people. You know, what is the government doing to actually ensure it's taking care of the people and their social welfare?
Absolutely. And you know, every time we talk about the society and how people are treated and just the world in general, there's usually this concept of the world is not fair anyway, you know? And I'm sure you have heard that a lot, where it's like, I mean, life is not fair at the end of the day. There's some people who will be privileged, there's some who will be underprivileged. Yes, you fight for it, but bottom line is people would say, listen, life is not fair at all. What does this statement, you know, mean to you or say to you? And especially as a person who fights for fairness and a just world and a just society. What does this statement really, really say to you when you hear someone say life is not fair?
I think it is a stereotype that we have been conditioned to accept, right? Because if you look at the amount of taxes that most of us are paying per month, it should be able to serve all of us as a country, regardless of what you earn. We're looking at talk of health, you know. Some people do not have access to health despite the fact that there is NHIF in place, and I'm glad you started this morning with that conversation, because it is something so serious. We still see people being held in mortuaries and even hospitals because of bills, even in 2023. That is something that should not be happening. What is happening is the poverty is almost systemic. It has been criminalized. In certain informal settlements, you find more police stations than hospitals. What does that tell you? There's no, we have lack of water, lack of adequate housing. In this country, we still have people living in caves, even as I speak. We still have children not going to school. We still have people living in tents here in Nairobi. The capital city of this country. It is sad.
It really is. It really is. And it's something that you said, that sometimes people don't even know that they have a right to. First of all, let's just talk about healthcare, right? In the country, and of course, there's this conversation, you know, early on with Olive, you know, as far as UHC and of course delivering on the same. There's a lot of inequality when it comes to access to healthcare. I mean, there's some parts of the country where there are more than enough health facilities, and other parts of the country there are no health facilities at all. So then, what does this say for us as a country when it comes to our priority? You know, and especially when it comes to making sure that everybody has access to quality, affordable healthcare. But really, that is not the case. What do you make of this? What is happening?
I mean, just to even just connect to the earlier question that you were asking about fairness, and you know, the world is not fair. It depends on who's pushing this narrative, because most of the time it's actually the oppressor. Yes, it's the oppressor and the privileged who actually push this narrative of life not being fair. So you really just need to make do with what has
available.
But when we look at our current state, especially even when we're talking about health matters, we need to understand that we have normalized our oppression for a very long time as a country. Our health status is deteriorating every single day. If you, there's this statement everybody keeps saying that you're like one illness away from abject poverty. You know, but who is to blame really? Article 1 of the Constitution says all power belongs to the people. But do these people actually know or feel like they have this power? You know, they've been dominated for a very long time that they don't even know they have these rights. You will find someone who goes to hospital and they want to act like they're being given a favor to actually just get that treatment.
Service that
You
they
know,
need,
that
yeah.
service, and they have normalized that mistreatment and the denial of their rights. And the government takes advantage of the people being ignorant about their rights.
All
you
right.
know? Even when you talk about you know, universal healthcare, how many people know what that means? How many people know how to access that? So there's no information. People do not have access to this information.
Yeah.
And then they don't even know what their rights are. You know, so even as we're complaining what you know, what the state of the country is, we also need to have that conversation where what is my personal responsibility as a citizen to actually even ensure that this you know, affordable and accessible healthcare is there for all of us. What does it take?
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. And I see that. And of course, again, there's several groups of people who will say, yes, the government is trying, the civil society is trying, everybody is trying. But then again, we never get to the point where we say, we have achieved this or we have achieved that. And especially when it comes to equality, whether it's access to information, whether it's access to services, whether it's access to whatever right, you know, that belongs to the people. We don't get to that point. We're always trying, you know, and I don't know how this makes you feel, where, you know, every single day the terms that we hear is, we are trying, yes, we have made strides, yes, we have made progress, but really, at what point do we say, you know what, we have actually achieved this? And how do we measure that, given, you know, the scale and especially what the people are saying?
I want to build on what my sister has just spoken about. And I keep on giving the analogy of a twisted towel, that citizens have become like a twisted towel.
All right.
It is said that the world trades on information asymmetry. I know, you don't know, you come to me for information, we know, we transact and all. But as citizens, we have a duty to be active citizens, to engage in public participation and all that. But at the same time, so this is one end of the towel that is twisted, right? But on the other hand, I'm just too hungry for me to walk to that public participation venue, which is sometimes not even accessible if I speak like someone, you know, a person with disability. So with that kind of situation, then the intersectionality of our challenges come in and you just don't know where to start. I don't think we can blame the citizen. I think that there's more, the government has the mandate to make sure that this citizen is well fed, that this citizen has access to this information. And so they need to digest these policies, these laws, these provisions that enable this citizen to exercise their active citizenship. Because otherwise we will continue. And of course, for us in this sector, it feels like sweeping the ocean, but we shall continue. We cannot relent. Even if with today's show, 2 or 3 people now come out knowing that, you know, oh, I have a right to food, I have a right to education. As we speak in Madare, there is a peaceful procession, I think from 10 a.m. And people are just complaining about education. 3 out of 10 children in Madare are now not going to school because of the high cost of living, and so they have to stay back home. So what does this mean? It will now continue the vicious cycle of poverty. Because even if we are digitizing our services as a government, how will these children now learn to access if they don't have the basic education?
I see that. I see that. And what am I? So then, what exactly? Where does this, you know, several forms of injustices that again we'll talk about as we continue with the conversation? Where exactly does that stem from? I know we talked about an aspect of privilege versus, you know, underprivileged. But even aside from that, just at a local level, just localize it to our own communities and our neighbors and the way we interact with one another. There are several forms of injustice that sometimes we don't think of them as injustices. So just to make it very clear for people to understand that, listen, this and this and this are, you know, some of the forms of injustices, and then we'll tackle, you know, the whole aspect about where exactly does that stem from. Given the 4 principles that we talked about, what are some of those things that we do on a day-to-day basis and don't even think about them as, you know, a form of injustice?
First of all, I need to say this. You said everyone is trying, the government is trying. The government is not trying.
It's not trying.
It is not at all trying. It is failing the people. So we cannot we cannot start this conversation by lying and saying that the government is trying. No, it is at all
not trying. Okay.
Because it's supposed to be the government of the people.
Okay.
And this government is not for the
but
people.
it's the people who elect, these leaders and put them in
that is
positions
something
of
that we
power.
can contest about.
Yeah.
That is debatable.
Okay.
Because, but on the question that you ask, as I said, we as Kenyans have really normalized a lot of oppression and suffering. But what we need to understand is that all these violations are actually systemic. They're by design. Right. It is not by accident that someone in Mathare is sleeping hungry. It is not by design that we do not have access to education. Because for you to actually get to control the masses, you must create this messianic attitude for people to always need you, for people to always look at you. Because creating a stable people and social welfare for the people will mean that people are not as dependent on the system and the government, and they need to feel that they are in power. So sometimes if even the poverty that we are facing as a country is actually created poverty. And it is poverty that is created by the system. But we have normalized that in the ghettos, we will have a meal or two. And you've had this for the last many years. You've grown knowing that we don't eat lunch. And you have normalized. So by the time you're leaving the house in the morning, you will eat the ugali that there was the leftover in the supper. And you will know that this is the only meal that I am having. And if I do not have a successful day, it might be the only meal that I am having this whole day. And these things we've really normalized, We are living in the ghettos in very dilapidated situations. You live with your whole family, 5 children, in a one single room, There is no dignity there. But we have grown in those situations and we have normalized the situation. So you don't even know or see that it is actually someone denying you your rights and violating your rights for you to leave the house at 10 p.m. to go to the toilet outside the house. Yet the Constitution under Article 43 says that you should be provided with decent housing. What does decent housing mean to you? Because right now, go to Kibera, Mathare, Korogocho, Mukuru, look at the houses that people are living in. No dignity completely. And then you live in that shack. Tomorrow the government wakes up and decides, by the way, even in this shack, you will not live. They actually demolish your house. And you now are asking people for fare to go back to your rural home. You don't internalize this as a violation. You don't internalize this as a wake-up call to actually stand up to the government and ask them. Because this Constitution of ours provides for social justice. What does it mean for me? What does it mean when you just wake up and come and demolish my house? Where do you want me to go? Well, we have normalized this as Kenyans. What are we saying right now? Bora uhai. It was never meant to be bora uhai. It's supposed to be uhai bora. But unless we stop normalizing these things, we will keep having this.
Absolutely. And I hear you, completely hear you. And even, again, listen, there's a lot of conflicts happening, amongst communities. And one of the things that people are fighting for is, resources. For example, we're talking about water, right? Access to clean, safe drinking water. The children are not going to school because, again, there are no classrooms where they're going to study from. We've seen a number of children studying under trees or in classrooms that are not safe for them. We talk about marginalized communities, and of course, you're really vocal about about this, and the whole question about marginalized. Like it's a lot of things that is happening that maybe you want to contribute to very quickly before we go on a break.
I think generally speaking, if we just take Article 43 and try to dissect it, we need a whole 3-4 days conversation. Because to see patients, for example, in Wajir County, being admitted, they're suffering from cholera and they're being admitted under dried trees. seriously, it's disheartening.
Yeah.
Right? It is time that we got mad enough as citizens, as a country, and for us to demand that our politicians change their narratives from, oh, which party, who did what, to come and focus on Article 43. It was one of the most mutilated pieces of, I mean, one of the articles that has been mutilated the most in the Constitution. But if you look at what is going on right now, they're speaking about, oh, who, you know, loyalty to my party, or this one has been taken where. Those are not things citizens want to hear now. People are hungry. People are hungry. People are sick. The medical burden, the education burden. And now we are speaking about enhancing what? University school fees again. So where do we go? Where does the poor woman, man, where do people go? That poor child who looks up to, you know, when I grew up, when I was growing up, I was being told education is the key to success. But if you can't even access that education, where do you go?
In the first place, does that mean that you're doomed for the rest of your life, or what? And I totally hear your frustrations, and I like the fact that you're saying, listen, we all need to be angry enough to demand for these things. You know, several people don't even know, you know, their rights to healthcare, to education. You know, people don't know these things. So the question is, where exactly do we start from, right? Because like we're saying, yes, the leaders are not doing their part, but we as a people, what are we doing to demand, you know, for fairness, for, you know, equality, for equity? But, well, you know what, how about we go on a break? Because I totally understand, you know, the frustration that we're all feeling as far as, you know, a fair and a just world is concerned. But again, like we're asking you, what are some of the forms of injustices that you have witnessed around you? And of course, I'm also going to pose another question to you. And what exactly are you doing to not only voice, but also make sure that action is taken against all these forms of social injustice as well? We take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about what do we need to do as individuals, as communities, as society, and of course as a country to address all these forms of injustices. Stay with us. This is your world.
Centum Real Estate brings to you 265 Elma 1 Apartments, the newest and most stylish development in Kasarani. Pay a deposit of 250,000 Kenya shillings and the balance in flexible installments or mortgage financed.
I'm Julian Sambokwe,
Oliver Mathenge,
Matthew Mbithi,
Nick Nyamori, Migok,
James Oluoch.
I'll be attending Man Cave.
I'll be attending Man Cave.
And I'll be attending Man Cave.
And I'll be attending the Man Cave on the 25th of February at the Lake House, Tigoni. Join us.
See you then.
See you then.
And hope to see you there.
Will you?
All right, welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us. Time really flies, but of course today's a very important day that all of us should actually have a conversation around, and this is as far as injustices is concerned. Of course, it's all about the World Day of Social Justice, and the theme for this year is overcoming barriers and unleashing opportunities for social justice. Once again, overcoming barriers and unleashing opportunities for social justice. And of course, we have Njoki Gashanja as well as Zaina Waturi here today to just help us, first of all, understand the different forms of injustices that are around us, that sometimes as individuals we actually do or we perpetrate and not necessarily know that we are actually perpetrating social injustice. So we're trying to understand all these different forms of injustices around us. But the bigger question is, what exactly are we doing as individuals, as communities, as a country, as leaders in various aspects, just to make sure that we deal with these forms of injustice? And of course, the question that we're asking you today is, what are some of the forms of injustice that you have witnessed around you? And the second question that I'm asking is, what exactly are you doing towards the same? And this is in terms of fighting, the different forms of injustice. So what are some of the forms of social, injustice that you have seen around you, and what exactly are you doing? I'll be looking at your feedback as we continue with the conversation. So be sure to interact with us, on Twitter and on Facebook. It is at NTV Kenya, but tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. I can see a number of you on Facebook. This is Dalmas Wesonga who says, inequalities in sharing of benefits, you truly deserve equally. All right. And then Kamuye Wakamuye says, refusal by employers to pay workers their rightful dues after unfair dismissal. All right. And then this is hilarious, but I'm just gonna read it. But listen, it's much more than this. Ken Cairo who said, women thinking that it is their right to share avocados by half with their husbands, but can't we share? It's a whole aspect, right?
It's our right.
It is our right to share avocados. But really, what are some of these other forms of injustices that you have witnessed around you, and what exactly are you doing, to fight these forms of injustice? Share with us. Again, I'll be reading your feedback as we continue with the conversation. And of course, Njoki and Zaina, really, I totally see, where your frustrations come from, and especially fighting from and interacting with the people on the ground and getting to really understand and see the picture of what exactly is happening. But yes, so the injustices are happening, but what are some of the barriers, and especially when it comes to tackling some of these forms of injustice? What is it that you, have encountered that is major challenge towards fighting for this, against rather these injustices?
Corruption.
Corruption. Okay.
Corruption.
All right.
Corruption. It is the breeding ground for inequalities.
All right.
When you go to a hospital and you're told to buy medicines from outside, and that outside is a pharmacy owned by this person who is directing you to go and buy those medicines.
Yeah.
Assuming this is a public hospital, NHIF is supposed to cover you 100%.
Yeah.
But when you go and buy those medicines outside, you dig deep into your pocket.
Yeah.
You buy the medicines. Most probably the price will not have been the same if it was given from the hospital. I've heard of corruption even in testing, urine tests and all that, costing 10,000 shillings. I mean, corruption, goodness, corruption is killing us. And it is the biggest barrier that we have for social justice.
Yeah.
Because this money that keeps on leaking to corruption would have been used to give us clean water, to give us accessible and adequate housing, to give us quality education, to give us quality healthcare. But we are losing so much. Was it 2 billion per day?
Yeah.
Or even more now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is just
Corruption.
It is the biggest barrier.
Yeah, corruption is a major barrier. All right, Njoki, for you, what are some of the biggest barriers that you have encountered, in your line of work? Fighting for justice.
The government.
The government.
Necessarily.
Okay.
Because, you see, the mandate of the government, the state, is to take care of its people.
Okay.
The reason we do not have water in the places where we live is because that sector has been privatized.
All right.
Who holds that business? Who is running that business? When we're talking about access to education, right now they're right, left, and center privatizing the education. Literally, our whole country is being privatized. Why? Because the people who are in leadership have their own interest. They want to align into, you know, the imperialist, capitalistic system, and it's all about profits over people, you know. So all of these things have been enabled by the people who have been given the power, who have been given the mandate. You know, all these other things are just people trying to survive and beat the system, you know, because it has become survival for the fittest. You have been placed in a certain condition. And so that is where, when you talk about corruption, corruption is not the root cause. You know, what is our political understanding as a country? Because all our problems are political. In the last campaign, and it was such a it was fresh air, because then the campaign moved from our normal, you know, tribalistic kind of attitude to a more centered conversation on social justice, by the way. Because when you talk about hustlers and dynasties, you're actually talking about social justice. You're talking about the dignity of people, and how they live and survive, you know. But this was appropriation. It was appropriation of our lives and realities for a political class to achieve their interests. So right now that they have gone into power, it is no longer about Mama Mboga and Boda Boda people, you know? So the biggest impediment,
about loyalty.
The government.
Like Zeta said.
Yes,
yeah,
the government. Yes.
All right, okay. But now, do you share the same sentiment? Because again, it is us as a people who put this government in power. It is us as a people who elect these leaders. Yes, I know they will come with all these promises and, you know, I will do this, I will do that in 100 days, to, you know, affordable, and then all of a sudden give us it is us who elect these leaders. So can we just talk about we as a people and the role that we play, you know, to a level that now we're witnessing all these forms of injustices? Because again, it's not the leaders who place themselves there. And I'm not saying that they're good people. Absolutely, that's debatable, right? Yeah. That is very debatable. But what role do we play as a people to make sure, you know, that yes, we elect good leaders who, you know, deliver to the people, but we also elect bad leaders who do not, you know, deliver quality services to the people? What role do we play as a people?
First, we need to be active citizens.
All right.
We need to be mad enough.
Okay.
For those of us who have information, we have a duty to share with those who don't have.
All right.
For those of us who are literate, have a duty to digest this information to our colleagues, our community members, who might not have the same understanding, for them to also understand what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Once we become active citizens, we will be speaking out about these social injustices. When you see people protesting on the street, you will realize that they are not mad, and that you need to join them, because whatever they're speaking out about also affects you. Once we get to that point, then we'll be able to effectively hold our, whether it's county or national government, accountable. And that's when we will start taking back our power. Because as she spoke about Article 1, you know, it can always just stay there in the Constitution if we do not put it to effect.
Absolutely.
So it is up to us, to become active citizens.
All right. But let's talk about participation, because we've talked about equity, we've talked about access, we've talked about human rights. Let's talk about participation. And you were very tough on this, like participation. People are not you know, being involved in some of these things, in change of policies and, you know, and laws and all those things. But I think there's one person who said, but where are these people? They never show up. They don't come. You know, for these dialogues and discussions, and all those people don't come. And then when something is done, when something is, you know, implemented, when something is passed, we then complain. Be like, yeah, why did you not involve us? And yet people don't show up. So I don't know what you make of that. And what is it that we are disengaging ourselves from? Is like, you're politicians, you see it. What exactly is happening?
Right where you, right there, because we as Kenyans have become very lethargic towards political processes.
Okay.
We want to say, politics, politics is not our thing.
All right.
But our problems are political, and so our solutions must be political.
All right.
And part of finding the solution is participation. But again, even the work that we do as grassroots human rights defenders and activists is the mandate of the government. Civic education, political education is actually a preserve of the government, of the people in power. They need to be deliberate and intentional about giving people information and educating people. But are they doing that? They're not doing that. That is why people like Njoki Gashanja are going around in these communities trying to tell people, but there you have these rights, you're supposed to do this. And when we talk about public participation, we hold dialogues in the communities every single day. And people do turn up. People do speak. People do participate, you know, in their own issues, because they realize no one is coming to save us. And in these small communities, people are actually making change, you know. But when you talk about this policy processes and public participation of you know, public processes, they will give you today, they will give you a notice today of a public participation that is supposed to go to happen tomorrow to a place where is even far away from the ward that you live in, you know. And you're also this you know, person who has to find out, where is my next meal coming from? So how do you even manage that time to go and participate in something that you know is already predetermined? Because most of these processes are just PR processes. And people are like, so why would I go there? And it's a predetermined process, you know? So we must be very deliberate in how we interact with politics in this country. We must change and become people who are interested in politics or policies, you know, and not to way to politics, you know, because that is where the rain started beating us, when we decided policies, good policies and governance is not our thing, because no one is perfect. All these leaders, you know, and honestly, garbage in, garbage out. So where we are as a country, it is our own doing. But it is not, we're not saying that now, sir, no, this is the end of it. No. We are saying, and we have been actively engaging the communities, teaching them, you know, telling them that your life is not supposed to be this miserable, by the way. They lied to you. It is not supposed to be this miserable. It can be better. And the Constitution has actually given you that power. But this is how you interact with the Constitution. This is how you interact with the laws to actually progress to that transformative change that we want to see in the society.
All right, so then looking at solutions, because again, it cuts across, you know, from our legal system to the politics to the economics to it's healthcare, it's literally everywhere. Forms of injustice are, you know, in different areas and different spaces. I mean, listen, millions and millions of Kenyans are actually facing starvation right now. The number has risen from 4.3 to, you know, all the way to 6 million. And, you know, in other areas, there is a surplus. In other areas, you know, people are dying of starvation and all those things. Children are not going to school. There's crime and violence, you know, everywhere, left, right, and center. People do not have access to healthcare. Where do we start from? What are some of the priorities? Where are the priority areas right now, even as we fight cases of injustice?
So number one, as I said, active citizenship. Number two, let's exercise the right to recall. The fact that we got you there doesn't mean we can't get you out of that seat. For
and
MPs,
we've seen that happen. We've seen some people who lost their seats
we've seen attempts to impeach, but there's also the right to recall, that you can recall your member of parliament. It doesn't have to, you know, sit on your heads for like 5 years. You have to decide. So you when you become an active citizen, you start looking for information. You start discussing within your community, your social groups, and then you decide to take action. In terms of counties, you can petition your county government. I think the Senate on their website, they have procedures on how you can petition on an issue. Let's do those letters. Let's do the petitions. Let's exercise the right to recall, because we can undo certain wrongs before it's too late.
That's true.
I believe we still have the power, and even if we are hungry, we can at least focus to write that one letter. And now that we have social media, yes, let's use it as a tool for the change that we want. If, as an individual, you see something wrong, speak up, speak out. You know, if there is a procession, peaceful procession against something, join the march. Do not start pointing fingers, calling people, these are busybodies, you know, because that is the label that HRDs have been given whenever they go to the streets and ask for services. When you say tukonja, all of us are hungry, you know, because while there might be differences in the class, but most people are feeling it, and especially after COVID, even the middle class have felt it. We've seen people coming out of taking their kids to government schools from private schools. So yeah, let's take active citizenship seriously.
How angry do we need to get? Like in your view, because like you said, we need to be angry enough to demand for these services. We need to be angry enough to demand for change. We need to be, how angry, you know, do we need to get? What is it that we need to do in terms of like taking action? Because like you're saying, yes, we can recall, yes, we can write letters, yes, we can do all those things. But then again, you know, there's some people who tell you we have done all that, but we do not see anything happen. So in your view, how angry do we need to get as a people, as citizens?
When we get mad enough, you will know it, Winnie. No one will tell you. I promise you, you will know it, you will feel it.
Yes.
Even you will find yourself wanting to go to that.
Yes.
I tell you. No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, but then when will that be? What will it take for us to be angry?
It has
enough? Because right now people are starving.
It has started.
Right?
How angry we need to get?
Yeah.
You don't have school fees for your child.
Yeah.
There is supposed to be free public education. Please wake up. Don't pray. Don't say Mungu atakuja.
Yeah.
Please wake up, dress that child, go to the MCA's office, stay there with your child. Because now if you cannot be in school with that child, you will go to this leader that you chose. And it does not even matter if you even voted for them. For as long as they have sworn, they've been sworn into power, they now become leaders for everyone.
True.
You are hungry. Those people who say they're governments for hustlers, please carry your sufuria and your plate. Go to these people and tell them, you know, I'm a hustler and I do not have food. Now what do we do? You know, hold these people accountable, because we will keep being in this situation because people, first of all, she said about middle class. That is, there is no middle class in Kenya. It's just the haves and the have-nots. COVID taught us. COVID taught us. Those people who were telling us they were middle class, they lost their jobs. They started selling us kuma wiki in their boots, you know, and they realized, oh, by the way, there's no middle class, because once cancer hits you, you will sell everything. You will become completely broke. So you, in your privileges, you want to think that the person in Madare or Korogocho is not deserving enough. You do not know that might be your especially with the governments that we are having today, that might be your reality tomorrow. So if we don't bundle up as a country and as a people to say we are together in this, we are all hungry. Yes, of course, I had sausage in the morning, but the person, you know, across the other side, Mudaga had sausage, but in Madare didn't have sausage, but I'm in solidarity with this person, then things will start to move. That is how angry we need to get. For me, who thinks I'm privileged because I have this access to loans, and the person in Gedorai cannot even access Fuliza because they have, you know, we must stand in solidarity with each other, because truth of the matter is we only have the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've had this whole concept about the rich keep getting richer, and the poor getting, keep getting poorer.
And when the poor do not have anything else to eat, guess who will they will go for? They will go eat the rich. And the government needs to actually realize that where the country is right now, people are getting really frustrated and tension is building. But we're, as activists, we're really happy because we are sure by the time it's the second year of this regime, it's not the activists who will be calling you to the streets. All of you will be coming and say, hey, we're in the streets, where are you? You know, it is everybody, because now everybody is feeling that pressure, and we did not need to get here. But because of the poor political choices that we're making, because we're choosing to be an ignorant people, because we're not holding our leaders accountable, then we keep getting stuck in this cycle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is not, a unique case for Kenya alone. I think this is, again, it cuts across, the region and, again, entirely the global space. I mean, there are wars and crimes and, all those things, happening around us. So that aspect of solidarity is pretty much important, right? Prioritizing our areas, which, again, like we keep saying, we have really good policies, but then again, the implementation is where there's a very, very big challenge. So in your view, what would you say are some of the priority areas that we need to focus on and push, for the same? And I know we cannot say, okay, healthcare, kapa kando kidogo, let's feed people. No, we need to, address them in equal measure. But then again, we need to have a priority, right? Like there's some areas that we can prioritize just to make sure that then, if this is okay, all these others will also work, in harmony. What would you say very quickly?
I would say Article 43 as a whole.
Okay.
Let's just prioritize
Article 43.
Article 43 as a whole.
Okay.
Because just like you say, you cannot relegate one right and say, oh, this can
let's
wait.
Focus on this one.
No,
Yeah.
all of them are a priority. And just like you said, we didn't have to get here, but now we're here. So yes, all of them are a priority. They all need allocation. They all need implementation. We are a beautiful country when it comes to policies and laws. Oh goodness, our constitution has been termed as the most progressive. So let's just implement it. Yeah, let's just, as citizens, we need to hold our leaders accountable. That's I think our priority as citizens. And as for the government, they need to ensure that they implement Article 43.
Okay.
That way, we will alleviate some of this. We'll not finish, but we'll improve.
Yeah, we'll make improvement. Like you said, we're not relenting.
We
are pushing.
Relent.
We are pushing. Okay,
relent.
all right. And Joki, for you?
I mean, I remember in primary school, I think it was in GSC, where we were being told, what are the basic rights? Food. Shelter,
clothing,
education. So basically what she said, Article 43 is it, because it touches on the dignity of the people and how a human being should, So at this particular point, and I think the government has really started on a very wrong foot, where they're prioritizing all these other things over just development, taxes, how they relate with all these other countries, how they align into the neo-colonial imperialist system. But the people are hungry. So take care of the people.
All right.
Take care of their education. Don't privatize their education. Don't make it hard for people to go to school. Don't make it hard for people to get healthcare. Make sure that people have something to eat. Make sure where they're living is a decent place. Just the basics of being a human being.
Okay.
That should be our priority.
I see that. What sort of conversations do you want to have from this day moving forward and next year, a day like this? What sort of conversations do you want to see? Very quickly, and I'll take that as your parting shot, starting with you, Joki, very quickly.
We are actually headed into the community to celebrate this day.
Yeah.
So one would be to just take stock of where we are as a country on matters social justice and what our responsibilities are as individuals and as a collective towards achieving the social justice.
Yeah.
So just having this reflection with the community is very important for us to even understand. Do the communities even know what we talk about when we're talking about social justice? So those are the conversations that we want to have, and just holding these leaders accountable in both political and public processes.
Absolutely, I hear. Thank you very much, Joki. All right, Zaina?
And after empowering the community, we need to tell government to stop cutting budgets on health, education, and all that.
On the basics,
We need those basic rights well budgeted, well catered for.
Okay, I see that. All right, thank you very much, ladies. Short and straight to the point. I like that. Zaina Otiri Kombo, Campaign Manager, Inequalities at Amnesty International Kenya, as well as Joki Gashanja, Political and Social Justice Activist, as well as the founder and coordinator, Githurai Social Justice Center. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming by today. Fruitful conversation, and we hope that then again, this continues even in our spaces, in our WhatsApp groups, we talk about those things and not just moshene, here and there, but we talk about things that we see around us and, the different forms of injustice that we see around us, but most importantly, speak about them and act, against all these injustices, so that next year, that is February 20th, we have a totally different conversation as far as social justice is concerned. All right, so have yourselves a lovely day ahead. I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on Your World. But until then, stay safe and God bless. Goodbye.